Welcome back to The Tab Dump. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam. Grab your coffee because we're diving straight into the deep end this week.
Oh, absolutely. We've got the Internet Archive deleting depositions on the fly, AI models that can read 1 million words of context, and the absolute state of running local LLMs. It's a goldmine.
Right, but before you get too excited about million-word context windows, Alex, remember, we also have to talk about the deepfake politicians popping up in those feeds and the hardware gaps making local AI a nightmare for everyone but the ultra-wealthy.
Fair point. It's the tension between what's technically possible and what's actually usable. And we're closing with a look at why designing for indeterminate age is harder than just slapping on a bigger font size in your CSS.
Exactly. Less hype, more human consequences. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the judge orders those .ge deposition videos off YouTube on Friday, and by Saturday, they're back. Torrents, Internet Archive. It's like trying to unring a bell with a sledgehammer.
Right, but let's talk about the actual order. This isn't just a guy posting a meme, it's a court order being flouted in real time. Who is actually enforcing this, and what happens to the people who just click the download link?
Technically, it's impossible to make it stick once the hash exists. You pull it from one server, someone else has already mirrored it. The data is out there, replicated across 1,000 nodes.
So the technical reality is that the internet keeps a copy of everything, but the legal reality is that a judge signed a piece of paper that says delete this. Those two things are at war right now.
Exactly. And it's cool in a terrifying way. The moment that video hit the public web, it became a distributed system. You can't just patch one node and expect the system to forget.
It's less cool and more lawless if the people involved in those depositions are now watching their private testimony spread because a court order couldn't be enforced fast enough.
I get the privacy angle, but think about the architecture. The torrent protocol is designed to survive exactly this. It doesn't care about the source anymore, only that the pieces match the hash.
But does the person who uploaded that torrent to the archive know they might be liable? Or are they just playing whack-a-mole with a subpoena?
It's the classic race condition. The order goes out, the servers comply, but the mirrors are already syncing. By the time the legal team realizes the content is still accessible, the damage is done.
So effectively, the legal system is running on a slower clock speed than the data network. That's a terrifying gap for anyone trying to protect sensitive information.
It's the ultimate Streisand Effect, but automated. You try to hide something, and the internet treats that action as a signal to replicate it everywhere. It's a perverse incentive structure.
And who pays for this? The people in those videos? The lawyers who now have to hunt down mirrors? Or is it just a speed bump for the public's curiosity?
From a systems view, the public's curiosity is the load balancer. It distributes the traffic so the original source doesn't even matter anymore. The content is self-sustaining.
That's a cold way to put it, but accurate. It means that once something is digital, removal is just an illusion. It's about making it harder to find, not actually deleting it.
Pretty much. You can scrub the search results, but the files are still in the wild, hashed and ready to be reconstructed by anyone with the right tracker.
So the lesson for anyone involved in litigation is to assume anything you put on the web is permanent, regardless of what a judge says tomorrow.
Exactly. The internet has a memory that doesn't take no for an answer. It's resilient, decentralized, and frankly, kind of unstoppable.
Resilient for the data, maybe. But for the people trying to keep things private, it feels like a losing battle from the get-go.
All right, so Opus 4.6 just dropped 1 million token context windows. That's not just a number bump, it's a fundamental shift in how the model sees the world. It's like going from reading a highlight reel to having the entire library on your desk.
Right, but while you're geeking out on the library, a Republican campaign in New Jersey just released a deepfake of James Tallarico saying things he never said. We're talking about synthetic media in an active midterm race.
I see the link. With 1M tokens, the model can ingest a politician's entire voting record, every speech, and years of interviews to perfectly mimic their cadence and vocabulary. The context window is the fuel for the deepfake engine.
Exactly. It's not just about voice anymore. If the AI has the full context of a person's history, it can generate text that sounds undeniably like them, making the lie harder to debunk. Who gets hurt when a voter sees a video that feels real?
From an architecture standpoint, it's about attention mechanisms no longer dropping off old information. The model keeps the long game in mind. But honestly, seeing a comment about debugging production servers with this context is wild.
So a solo founder is using it to fix database locks, and a political opponent is using it to fabricate scandals. The tool is the same. The intent is where the chasm opens up. It's a massive double-edged sword.
The engineering is incredible. One user mentioned it stabilized a security tool where other agents kept hallucinating. That stabilization comes from understanding the full system state. That same stability is what makes the deepfakes so convincing.
That's the terrifying part. It's not a glitchy, low-res video. It's high-fidelity, context-aware deception. We discussed the Streisand Effect earlier, but how do you delete a deepfake that's been distributed before the lie is even proven?
You can't delete it. And the 1M context makes it harder to trace back to a specific prompt. The model isn't just recalling a phrase, it's synthesizing a new output based on a massive dataset of the person's behavior. It's generative, not just retrieval.
And that's where the human cost spikes. A voter might make a decision based on a lie that is technically perfect. It's not a rumor, it's a manufactured reality.
There's a comment arguing that 1M tokens drops quality, saying it's not worth it. But in this case, the drop in quality isn't the risk, the increase in coherence is. If it hallucinates less, the deepfake works better.
Yes. Right, but the one-size-fits-all nature of these models means the political bad actors get access to the same high-end tools as the solo founder. The barrier to entry for creating chaos is vanishing.
It's like giving everyone a nuclear reactor. Some people use it to power a city, others to build a bomb. The architecture doesn't care, it just processes the tokens. The context window is just a bigger canvas.
And the canvas is getting painted with lies about James Tallarico. The technical marvel is irrelevant if the outcome is a distorted democracy. We need to talk about the detection, not just the generation.
But detection is an arms race. If the generation model has 1M tokens of context to learn from, the detector needs that same depth to spot the subtle inconsistencies. It's a game of catch-up.
So we're stuck in a loop where better tech means better lies. The voters are the ones left holding the bag, trying to figure out what's real in an election cycle that's already chaotic.
It's a grim engineering reality. The capability is there, and it's generally available now. We can't uninvent the context window, but maybe we can force a conversation on the guardrails.
Guardrails won't stop a motivated actor who spins their own model. The real question is whether the public can still trust their eyes and ears. If the answer is no, the tech wins and the truth loses.
So we're talking about local AI, right? The dream is you run a model on your own machine, total privacy, no API costs, full control.
Right, but the reality I'm seeing in these threads is a UX nightmare. Like one user said, they literally can't see shit on the site because there's no light mode toggle.
Okay, that's a UI oversight, sure. But the bigger technical hurdle is the hardware detection. One comment mentioned the tool couldn't guess their specs when they opened it in Safari on a Mac.
Exactly. If the tool can't even figure out what computer I'm on, how is it supposed to help me run a complex local model? It's gatekeeping empowerment with a broken front door.
It's frustrating because the architecture is actually cool. You're talking about quantization, model offloading to GPU, managing VRAM like it's a precious resource. It's like building a custom engine for your car.
Most people don't want to build the engine, they just want to drive. And if you tell them they need a dual 3090 workstation to run the thing, you've already lost them.
That's a fair point. And that dual 3090 rig, well, it doesn't even run macOS, which kills the whole Mac user experience vibe for a huge chunk of the creative crowd.
So who is this actually for? It feels like we're talking about the same 0.1% of tinkerers who already have the hardware, the knowledge, and the patience to debug a dark mode issue.
Maybe the value isn't in the final product, but in the process. One user compared LLMs to 3D printers. Great for prototyping, seeing the unforeseen problems before committing to a permanent solution.
That's an interesting analogy. But 3D printers have come a long way in usability. Local AI feels like a 3D printer from 2010 that only works if you solder the wiring yourself.
True. The hardware gap is real. You need massive VRAM for context, fast RAM for loading, and a GPU that isn't a decade old. It's a high bar for local.
And let's not forget the economic impact. If the only people who can run private AI are those with thousands of dollars in gear, that's not democratization. That's a new form of digital redlining.
I get that. But on the engineering side, seeing people hack together solutions with what they have is inspiring. It's the spirit of the early internet, right? Making it work despite the constraints.
It's inspiring until you consider the people who give up because they can't make it work. We talked about the Streisand Effect earlier. Maybe this is the local AI effect, where the effort to hide data is so high, people just go back to the cloud.
That's a risk. If the local experience is too painful, the cloud wins by default, even if people want privacy. The friction is the enemy here.
Exactly. Until you can install and run a model as easily as you install a browser extension, this local AI dream is just a very expensive toy for a very small club.
So we're looking at Ageless Linux, this project trying to solve age verification without forcing you to carry an ID everywhere.
Right, but let's be real, the whole concept hinges on a technical implementation that feels incredibly fragile.
I get that, but the engineering here is fascinating. They want to use HTTP headers to signal indeterminate age so servers can serve appropriate content without knowing who you are.
Except the source material points out a massive flaw. If you redirect based on an over 18 flag, the site can just learn that information anyway, just slower.
That's a valid concern about the redirect mechanism, but proponents argue it could be granular, like how browsers handle multiple image resolutions today.
It's not just a technical spec, though. One comment notes there are no carve-outs for open source, meaning your toy OS is just as liable as Microsoft to implement this.
Which is wild. So if I'm tinkering in my garage with a home server, I'm suddenly a regulated entity under this framework?
Exactly. The metaphor used in the comments compares it to the health department requiring your home kitchen cocktail hour beverages to meet industrial fluoridation standards.
That's a brutal analogy. It implies the technical solution can't actually scale down to the individual level without breaking the whole system.
And it's not just about scale. If we insist on stretching this absurd metaphor, we're talking about bankrupting the internet or upending innumerable precedents to make it work.
From a deployment pipeline standpoint, adding a verification step for every request is a massive performance bottleneck. It turns a simple GET into a complex negotiation.
And who pays for that latency? It's the user. The kid trying to access a harmless wiki gets stuck in a verification loop before the page even loads.
True, but if the standard is right, it could be uniform site-wide, which mitigates the per-request overhead you're worried about.
Right now, the only standard I'm aware of is RTA, which theoretically applies per request, but everyone expects usage to be uniform site-wide anyway.
It feels like we're trying to build a dam out of software to hold back a flood of legal requirements. The code is cool, but the pressure is immense.
And if that dam breaks, we're back to the Streisand effect we talked about earlier, but this time it's the entire infrastructure collapsing under compliance.
So maybe the lesson is that indeterminate age is a noble goal, but the header-based solution might be the wrong tool for this specific job.
Or maybe it's just that technology shouldn't be the sole answer to a problem that requires policy, not just a redirect.
And that's a wrap for this week. Honestly, looking at the indeterminate age headers, I'm still thinking about the sheer cleverness of trying to signal complexity without committing to a specific architecture. It's like architectural agnosticism in HTTP form. Beautiful in theory, a nightmare in practice, but I love the ambition.
Right, but Alex, your favorite takeaway is the one that breaks the web for the average user trying to load a page. My vote goes to the deleted depositions and the Internet Archive. The fact that a few court orders can trigger a global firestorm that makes information more available is the ultimate reminder that the internet is a living thing, not a database.
Okay, fair point on the broken web. But have you seen the cache propagation there? It's a distributed system failure that looks like a feature. It's wild. Though, I guess I can't argue that people actually seeing those documents is a net positive.
Exactly. People seeing the truth is a net positive. It's the human element that wins out against the technical fix. Speaking of which, if we don't talk about the 1M